What's up, stoners? Welcome to another local band, Smokeout. I'm your host, BG, and today's going to be a Wake and Bake album review, but it's a hip-hop album review. We don't do these very often. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. We're doing Introvert. The album's called A Graveyard, A Garden. He's from Master K-Town, Florida. Never heard of it. Used to live in Florida for 23 years. Apparently it's between Tampa and Orlando, so it's over in that area. Facebook.com/introvertfl if you like what you're about to hear, and I think you are going to like what you're about to hear. If you've never tuned in, I'm on an album EP review that I do here on the show. Basically, I've already heard the entire CD, and I've written down notes for every single song, and we're going to go through those notes before we hear each song, and then I kind of do an album assessment, and I do an overall review at the very end. Before we get started, though, we must do shout out to sponsors. Youngblood Productions, Boost, aka Integrity Products, Dirty Radio, the free uncensored app you should already have downloaded. I'm on there every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. Octave Studios, Jason Cervino Tattoos, and Vape Out, located in Big Bear in Apple Valley, California. Stop and use code LBS15. They'll take 15% off the purchase. Alright, so track 1 is called A Graveyard. And I put intro track right away, not at all what I was expecting. These are the kinds of hip-hop beats that I absolutely love. Lyrical game appears to be on point as well. It's kind of a short song because it's the intro, but nothing wrong with that. This is A Graveyard from Introvert. Let me know what you think. Sorry if you got.
We're sick enough to spill someone else's blood, paint a picture of ourselves with it, call it love. But I guess that's what the ego does. When it forgets the bodies we become will eventually turn back to dust. We've held on to the worst parts of our nature, try to survive off rotten fruits of our labor. Maggot-filled and mangled flesh, should have seen it as a sign. But lately we've been complaining that the apple hasn't been tasting right. Taste buds blossom, reach up for the taste of death. Spit spilling out our lips, smoke collecting in our chest. Hands erecting effigies, where all of the ash collects. Man, the flames we set ablaze and call ourselves the architects. We didn't plant this garden, no, it grew on its own. Now it's starting to resemble all the bones we left below. Palms open, hands stretched strangely. I can never tell if they're reaching out to comfort us or asking us for help. Oh Eden, please believe that the snake still slithers in our teeth. From the lies that we believe to satiate our endless need to be better than the barren land we leave beneath our battered feet. We watch skylines start to erupt, so cityscapes and empty spaces surrounded us, burying the truth we knew we couldn't sell. Paradise was never lost, we stole it from ourselves.
Dope. That was A Graveyard. I forgot to mention, when we do the listening for each song, it's usually about like a minute and a half to a little bit over a minute and a half, because the goal is, if you like what you're hearing, you go and buy the album from the artist or discover the rest of the album on your own, tell a friend about it. So that's why we don't do, plus it's like fucking 40 minutes of smoking straight on camera. I could probably do it, but why though? All that weed just burned for no reason. So we keep it kind of short and sweet. Track 2 is going to be The Great Performance. This beat kind of reminds me of something that Kanye would have done like in the 90s, which is awesome. I love it. Some really, really cool scratching samples. The hook's really catchy, and I put a little star next to it because I think this is one of my favorite songs on the whole CD. This one's called The Great Performance.
to the ceiling and the lights dim. All eyes on the miles of the shoes I tried to walk in, maybe once too often. Stalked by bitter silence to memorize the lines that were etched into my irises. Followed the script till I was part of the plot line. Found the spot where these two lives intertwine. One where my reflection wouldn't look me in the eye, and the other with the confidence that I could never recognize. I built these bones out of lethargy and broken glass, pieced the mask together with torn out pieces of the past. It's a smile with surrender. It didn't take long before this body became a costume I couldn't take off. The premise sounded perfect. All I did was practice, adapted to the characters that I carefully crafted, but knew I was a miscast the moment that my mouth started reciting words that I knew I wouldn't write myself. I played the lover, the best friend in the sun. I played the pillar, the temple lifeline.
That beat's fire. Don't let anybody tell you any different. That beat's fire. The next one's gonna be Father Figure, in parentheses less. Father Figure less. Bit of a different feel on this one. Really deep lyrics on this track. The hook is scary, serious lyrically. So I want you guys to listen on this hook. Father Figureless.
His eyes wander from his son to the floorboards. The cracks collect the battle cries. Bottle always wins the war waged against himself. His hands shake, his brow sweats. The minute hand ignites the kerosene that lingers on his breath. Looks to the wedding band, a reminder of regrets. He takes a shot of Jack and chases with a second guess. It's frustrating listening to life's somber cadence. Clutching at the walls, so walking gets complicated. Now the world that he created doesn't spin like it used to. Design he had in mind dissipates inside the rear view. The past presents a parable for how to flee the scene. Decoding the moment, determine what it means. Now he can't see the future, all he sees is the front door leading towards a sunrise and escape that it stands for. And as he steps into the light and fresh air hits his lungs, he makes the center of his universe his none and only son. I was the rope that you tied around your back, and you were the rope that I tied around my neck. A shadow of the gallows is still stalking my past, just an old unholy ghost haunting family photographs. I was the rope that you tied around your back, and you were the rope that I tied around my neck. A shadow of the gallows is still stalking my past, just an old unholy ghost haunting family photographs. I heard a whisper in the wind and spent my life trying to find it, but absence is the sincerest form of silence. After distancing myself, I found despite what I envisioned, predispositions are the only proof that he ever existed. Persistent.
That song is serious. Father Figureless. I encourage you guys to listen to the rest of that song. That one's deep. Track 4. Got a little star next to this one. Another one of my favorites, The Flood. I love all the beats so far on this album. Another great hook on this one. This particular lyric that really stood out to me. The hook, it says, I forget what the beginning part says, but then at the end of it says, we'll find our way to the bottom. The way he says it, I really like that line in particular. So this is track 4, The Flood.
Undress me like you mean it, I'm afraid I've seen it. The pictures of yourself that you tore into pieces and threw on the ground like rose petals and ash, hoping God wasn't watching you then. How we laugh, you took the trip and lost yourself. Addressed the need for help, abandoned everything you stood for. Go ahead and sit down. I remember rainy days and laughing, don't remember how compelled by death dressed to kill ourselves, baby, we're martyrs now. But I backed out and you couldn't forgive me. Cursed the world in my name to anyone who was listening. Then you went and tried to overturn the open vote for questioning that sinking feeling, still keeping your head afloat. If that makes me a coward, I'm the one to blame. I knew death would bring some closure, but it's not really the same as stepping forward to combat that lonesome plague, afraid that martyrs never live up to their name. We need a change. And we swim like dead bodies, arms stretched out, face beneath the waves. And if you watch, the storm will stop and we'll find our way to the bottom. I traced the freckles on your back until they spelled out run. It was the softest warning that there ever was, but I ignored it. Raised a tattered cloth above the hidden gem. Was never one to take directions, dear, or follow them. I built this bridge to stand, not to burn down a cross, but the sentiment.
Damn, I think I heard some on the second listen I didn't hear the first time. I think he said, "I'll trace the freckles on your back until it spells out run." That shit is cold. Serious. Dude, I'm loving this CD so far. We're gonna take a short break. We'll be right back. Part 2 of the Introvert album review for A Graveyard, A Garden. Don't go anywhere. Alright guys, we're back with part 2 of the Introvert album review for A Graveyard, A Garden. Facebook.com/introvertfl. It's from Master Key Town, Florida. And during the break I found out that all the beats are actually made from Anno Domini Nation. So shout out to Anno Domini Nation for the beats. I apologize for that. Alright, so we're at track 5, The Flame. This is a simple, chill beat, but it's got a really, really dope hook. At some points, the MC in Introvert really resembles Eminem. It's totally a cliche remark, and I know he probably has heard that a million times, but it's true, and I consider it a compliment. So, cheers. This is track 5, The Flame, and let me know what you guys think.
Where you been? It's been a minute. Last time we spoke, you stormed out before I finished, spilling my guts off the edge of my bed, reciting that mantra that you pounded in my head like, here's something for the sickness, just ignore the side effects, the jitters will leave once you realize the promises won't be kept. This market madness is a medicine, it's better to ignore the past, it's just gonna happen again. Ring around the rosy pockets full of RX labels, ashes that you left me are still sitting on the kitchen table. In that gold vase, wilted petals at its base, thorns you were born with, found a way to scratch my face every time we kissed. Remnants of a last wish that burned bright as the fire, then once engulfed my mattress. Instead of being stuffed out, nothing's left but the stench of smoke and an empty orange bottle, all those milligrams of false hope. Sing me to sleep, I still hope these dreams will bring back my memory. Back then remembering wasn't an issue, I never knew that I would be so fluent and forgetful. Sing me to sleep.
That's track 5, The Flame. Shit's all clogged up, I'm gonna unclog it real fast. Track 6 is gonna be called Hangman's Son. The title appears to reference some lines from the song Father Figureless. I love the sexy jazz feel going on in this beat. There's a particular lyric I really like that says, tried to tie the noose, but I couldn't get the hang of it. I like that right there. So this will be track 6, Hangman's Son.
I've got an open sore, I'm bleeding on my bed sheets, folding conviction to somehow make the ends meet. There's no point in sleep, it's fluttering and brief. Lately she's sick of counting dead sheep, and I see that look you get when you think that it's my last breath. You've met death, you are reaching counter like a cheap dress. It's not your fault that the questions so itch my skin, and I pick at the scabs that I hope to find the answers in. They never come, I'm left to waste away, hidden no more than a bag of bones. Words I wouldn't say, I chase my dreams of medicine. I'll be okay one day, there was a storm that shook the house. Didn't hear a thing, I smiled as you rested your head on my breast. Nature was a whisper drowned out by your soft breath, and as your fingertips tiptoed across my chest, I promised I'd tell you everything I laid to rest. To every man who's ever met his maker, every sunrise is a sunset, begging for an anchor. I've been brought to the gallows, can't run from it. Tried to tie the noose, but I couldn't get the hang of it. To every man who's ever met his maker, every sunrise is a sunset, begging for an anchor. I've been brought to the gallows, can't run from it. Tried to tie the noose, but I couldn't get the hang of it. I try to keep it simple without losing the meaning. Try to keep the peace without keeping all the pieces. Could create a photograph of lessons that I learned, but I refuse.
I was track 6, Hangman's Son. And I gotta break one more time before we do part 3, which would be track 7, track 8, and then the album assessment. I have a little monitor here so I can see my son in the other room. He's only 2, and he needs me for something, so I'll be back in a minute, guys. Sorry. Alright, we're back with track 7. We're doing the album review of A Graveyard, A Garden. And track 7 is going to be Silence Lost. It's Midas Touch. It could be the most serious track on the album. It's kind of slower than the other ones, but the title kind of made me think for a minute too. Like, Midas Touch is like always when people turn stuff into gold, I believe. So Silence Lost its goldenness. Silence is golden. That's kind of what I got from it. Track 7. Let me know what you guys think of this one.
I got a shelf full of memories bookmarked with bad judgment. It reminds me of the times quiet added to something. It wasn't my intention to get caught inside the spin, but never knew the consequence that all the still air would bring. Baited my breath with gasoline, struck a match, found comfort in burning everything I ever had. I'm sorry for every single case of my generation's good intentions horribly misplaced. It's so strange knowing life ain't what you make it. To think you took the road less traveled, find out you're mistaken. To forget the lines between real and fake relations and lose a guide on how to find all your limitations. I tested the water and I got stuck as the pieces of myself I forgot about sunk. My tongue ain't as lenient as I'd like to allow, so I'll slit my own throat if it helps get all the words out. I was meant to live with my lips bound tightly, but it's hard trying to walk the lines that my palms have assigned me. I used to think that I lived on my own accord. It's just so strange the word past can mean to move forward. These are just the rules that I choose to adhere to. Watch my memories come alive inside the rear view, and even so, it'll never be enough. I remember the day silence lost.
Track 7, Silence Lost its gold. It's Midas Touch. Alright, so we're on the track 8, the final track on A Graveyard Garden from Introvert. Facebook.com/Introvert FL. All the beats by Ano, Damani, Nation. Track 8 is going to be A Garden featuring Brian Watkins, and I believe Brian Watkins actually is the producer of the album, as far as who did the recording and mixing and all that jazz. I love the piano in this beat. It's got a really good, great feature from the producer. It's kind of a short outro track, but it's still powerful in the same. So check it out, A Garden.
We were born with the harvest on our lips. All the seeds we needed stitched into our fingertips. Instead of being grateful, we pushed heaven past its limit, searching for a paradise despite it being given to us freely. And after all this digging, we stared at the mound, our eyes aiming at the sky from the hole we dug ourselves. And in this passing moment, it just seems so fitting how the hands that dug into the earth will try to climb their way out, and we can, if we don't suffocate from all the weight of the plagues that we create. Centuries of past mistakes, a history of ending life as mindless entertainment, allergic to forbidden fruit, but we had to taste it. And as the juice is spilling out underneath our gaping mouth, every single seed is scattering into the lines we plowed. I can't promise things will change. All that I can say is there's evidence of thriving life peeking over all the graves. Mother, love me dearly. I know I hurt you so. I tore your skin apart, but I can't promise things will change. I can't promise things will change.
Alright, that was track 8, A Garden, the last track. I wish that track was like a full song. That's probably my favorite one of all besides. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Alright, so the album assessment. This album is fantastic. talking about a graveyard, a garden. For some reason, I want to get that backwards each time. That's why I have to keep looking at it. From Introvert, Facebook.com/IntrovertFL from Master Key Town, Florida, which I had never heard of previous to this episode. Between Tampa and Orlando, that's where you can find it. This album is fantastic. Every beat sends you right back to where hip-hop all started. Lyrically and delivery-wise, Introvert is a genius. He opens up about problems with his father on some tracks, letting you in on what he's dealing with. It makes you, to me, that kind of like brings you closer to the artist when people like open up that way. My favorite tracks were The Great Performance, The Flood, and especially A Garden. I'm going 9.1 out of 10 on the review. This album's excellent. I'm going to be spinning it a couple more times, actually. I love pretty much like every song I liked, so 9.1 out of 10. So cheers, man. Thank you for doing this. As far as opting to do the album EP review, it helps me out, helps you out. So cheers. Once again, Facebook.com/IntrovertFL. Definitely go like his page and catch a show if you're anywhere in the area between Tampa and Orlando when he's playing out and in Florida. That'd be awesome. Probably a really, really good set. I'd imagine he's got some energy. Cool. So if you're in a band, having to make a dope 420 party, or you're interested in being in the show, hit me up. Facebook.com/localbandsmokeout. Make sure you like the page, watch the video at the very, very top. It'll explain everything, how to submit correctly, and/or skip the waiting list, and/or get an album EP review done. Other than that, I'm on Instagram, Masterroots, YouTube, Twitter, and Snapchat. Cheers, and keep blazing. Peace.